going on, guys? Tyler here from Don'tPanicDoThis.com, the site all about helping you to beat your panic attacks and anxiety. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that the website and the channel already has a ton of information on how to beat panic attacks, but I thought this video might be useful to some of you because dealing with MRI claustrophobia, or panic attacks inside of an MRI machine, is a little bit different from dealing with panic attacks in your everyday life, because you're in a controlled environment, you're in this little tube, so you can't just go for a run or do a lot of the other things that I typically recommend for stopping panic attacks. So this video is going to focus all about that, and we're going to cover 10 ways for you to stop panic attacks or anxiety while inside of an MRI machine, or just how to prevent it before you even get there. Now, this is a topic I can relate to personally because actually my grandmother, when she was sick before she passed, she had to go for multiple MRIs, and she was a really anxious woman. She kind of had a lot of like agoraphobia and just general anxiety, and she got very claustrophobic and would have panic attacks before getting in the MRI machine. And then about a year ago, I tore my rotator cuff in my shoulder and needed an MRI scan on that. And even just being in that tube for whatever 20 minutes that I was in there for, I realized how uncomfortable it can be, and you really are restricted, and it's just not a great feeling. So I really want to make this video, and I hope that it's helpful for anybody who has an upcoming MRI, and hopefully it can ease a little bit of your anxiety and stress going into it. With that said, let's get right to it. Here's 10 ways for you to stop panic attacks while inside an MRI machine. So the first piece of advice I have for you is actually going to be before you're even in the MRI machine, and that's going to be to know exactly what to expect once you're there. Oftentimes the fear of the unknown can be worse than the actual event itself. So just not knowing what we're getting into our mind is gonna try to fill in the blanks and probably make the situation scarier than it has to be. So do your due diligence, do a little bit of research to really understand what an MRI machine is doing while you're in there and what the whole procedure is gonna look like. So just to answer some quick questions for you, the first thing you might be happy to know is that an MRI machine does not use ionizing radiation like x-rays or CAT scans, so you're not gonna have to worry about being irradiated while you undergo the procedure. Something else you might want to know is that MRIs typically last between 15 to 90 minutes. You might want to ask the doctor or whoever is performing the MRI on you exactly how long it's going to take. This can ease your anxiety a bit so that you know going in what to expect. MRIs are typically much safer alternatives than other options like CAT scans and x-rays. They only pose a risk to people who have something like a pacemaker inside, but that's something that the doctor would already know, or something that you should talk about with the doctor before getting an MRI done. So only for a small subset of the population is an MRI not a good option, but for most people it's going to be perfectly safe and you'll have nothing to worry about. Something else that might put your mind at ease is to know that because up to 10% of the population suffer from claustrophobia, just about any MRI machine is going to have a little panic button inside. So if you do start to freak out and you really just absolutely need to pull the ripcord and get out of there, there's usually a little button that you just push, and whoever's administering the procedure, the scan, will know to pull you out and just give you a break and try again when you're ready. All right, method number 2 for decreasing or preventing anxiety while inside of an MRI machine is going to be to consider your sedation options. So like we've said before, this is a really common problem. A lot of people get claustrophobia going into MRIs, and the doctors know that. So if you let them know beforehand that you're feeling anxious, they might just prescribe something to you or give you something real quick to get you through the day. Typically, I advise against medications except in extreme situations, but seeing as an MRI is really a one-off event, I don't think it's so harmful to just maybe take something, maybe they'll give you a benzodiazepine or something like that to help you relax just a little bit to get through the procedure. IV sedation is available in most, in severe cases, but I really don't think that'll be necessary for most people. And if you just want something mild, I would check out the anxiety supplements we recommend on the website. I have a lot of reviews and stuff of different anxiety supplements that will probably be enough to take that edge off and get you through the MRI. So check those options out and they can help you a lot, I think. Step number 3, and probably the most important step for controlling your anxiety while getting an MRI, is going to be to recognize and acknowledge your anxiety for what it is. It's just anxiety. So while you're laying there, you might feel like you're going to die. You might feel like you need to burst out of the room. You might feel like your heart's racing a million miles an hour, but at the end of the day, especially for people who have recurrent panic attacks, you just have to remind yourself, this is just anxiety, this is just a panic attack, and it's gonna pass the same way it always does, whether you're laying in the MRI machine or running away from the office. It doesn't really change anything. I mean, the anxiety is going to run its course and it's going to be over, and it's probably just going to last, I don't know, a couple of minutes maybe. So just wait it out. It's not going to last the whole time. And oftentimes when we get into an unfamiliar situation or something like that, I always compare it to like that when you buy a fish. I remember as a kid, if I had a fish tank, and when you get a new fish, you can't just drop the fish into the fish tank. You have to kind of ease it in. You set the bag in the water and you let it kind of adjust to the temperature of the water, and that way the fish is comfortable going into the tank after X amount of time. So I kind of feel like entering uncomfortable situations works that way with anxiety as well, where you might feel super anxious at first, but as time goes on, your anxiety is going to naturally dissipate as you get more comfortable with your surroundings. So if you start having a panic attack the second you lay on the MRI machine, just relax, wait it out, understand that this is just anxiety and it's going to dissipate over time. It's going to pass even without you doing anything. So just relax and, like I said, acknowledge the anxiety for what it is. It's just anxiety. It's going to pass. And this leads me to the next thing. If you're getting really stressed out, talk to whoever's administering the exam. Talk to them about your anxiety. You can verbalize it and have a conversation with them, which leads us to step 4. So step 4 is going to be just to talk through it with the radiologist. Like we said earlier, 1 in 10 people suffer from claustrophobia and panic attacks or anxiety while inside of an MRI machine, so this is nothing new for them. You're one of the 10 people that go in there and are having extreme anxiety, and that's okay. They're used to it. They know how to deal with it. It's part of their job. When I had my MRI done about a year ago, the guy was, I don't know, 10 feet away from me the whole time. The radiologist was 10 feet away from me the whole time. So I didn't need to talk to him. We weren't feeling particularly chatty, but if I was distressed and I did need to talk to him, he was right there that I could have said, hey, is this normal? I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, this, that, the other thing. Can I get a break? They're there and they can talk to you if you need them, if you need any kind of reassurance, or even just ask them, how's their day going? Ask them basic questions and just start a conversation. And even that should be enough to take your mind off of, going into its own little thought spiral and making your panic attacks worse. So just talk to the radiologist if you need to, or bring a friend and talk to them, whatever. You can't use your phone or anything like that, but ask if you can bring a friend in the room, someone to talk to. But even if you can't do that, or you don't want to do that, the radiologist is there. So talk to somebody and just help time to go a little bit faster while you get the exam done. Number 5 is an interesting one. You might already know this, or it might be a sort of life hack for you, but you can typically bring a blanket in for the MRI. Something like cloth or anything like that. You're wearing your clothes anyway, so it doesn't get in the way of the exam itself. If you ask the radiologist before the procedure if you can bring a blanket in with you, or if they can provide a blanket, a lot of places do actually have blankets available. From what I understand, I've never asked for a blanket, but from what I understand, a lot of the places do have blankets, and even if they don't, you can ask if you can bring your own. And for whatever reason, this really helps to calm people down. You can see how popular weighted blankets have become over the past couple of years for helping people to decrease their anxiety just by being under something, feeling warm and safe. And not to mention, MRI exam rooms are notoriously cold. So just in general, going from shivering to feeling some degree of comfort, I'm not saying that it can 100% kill your anxiety, but even if it's just like 5% of the edge off of your anxiety, it could be worth it. So talk to the radiologist and see what your options are for that. See if you can bring a blanket in, or see if they have one to provide for you, and hopefully it helps a little bit. Number 6 is a huge one, and it's going to be to listen to music. So one of the things that really freaks us out while we get an MRI is that it's kind of like being in a sensory deprivation tank. It's just, there's nothing really going on. You just hear the whirring of the machine, and it can be stressful to a lot of people. So something I recommend is that you listen to music, and they know this. Radiologists already know that music helps, which is why a lot of times they provide music for you. So when I got my MRI done last year, they actually provided these big, bulky, ugly headphones that I put on, and I listened to Guardians of the Galaxy radio soundtrack, whatever, for like 30 minutes on a loop. But that was a good way of keeping my mind busy, I thought. If you have your own music, or you have your own guided meditation or soundscape or something that helps you to relax that you would typically be doing at home to stop your panic attacks, you can ask them to play it for you over the headphones or whatever it is that they're going to use for you. But you can ask for that, and they'll probably be happy to accommodate you in that way. The only thing I'm going to point out is that you can't bring your own iPod or phone in with you, because it's, the MRI uses magnets. It's a very powerful magnetic machine, so you can't bring any of that stuff in with you. But if you talk to the radiologist about how the equipment works, I'm sure that they'll have no problem playing something of yours over the radio, or they might just have their own little music that they can put on for you. I'm sure most places will at this point, but just talk to them about that. And I definitely think I would also highly recommend focusing on the music. Don't just let it passively play in the background, but really listen to it and even use it as a focus object. So typically when I used to have really bad panic attacks, I would try to find a focus object, something that I can direct my attention to and just hold my focus on that particular object or that sensation, whatever it is. I would hold my focus on that to kind of help me not be focusing as much on the panic attack. So I would recommend focusing on the music. Really try to feel the music. Try to put your mind into the music, if that makes sense, to just get yourself out of your panic attack thought loop. Number 7 is to meditate, and this is one of the easiest things that you can do while in there. It's even easier if you've already practiced meditation on your own at home. Now, if you haven't meditated before, you might be thinking, how is this going to help me? I don't believe in this stuff. I used to actually think that way as well, but I'm just going to let you know that's the wrong way to think about it. And what meditation really is it's just a sort of mental exercise. It's basically you're exercising your ability to focus or to control your thoughts in a way. So, for example, we kind of talked previously about focus objects just in the last step. Meditation is sort of its own focus object in a way. I guess I'm not really an expert on meditation, but I think it's fair to call it that, because what you're doing is you're kind of just thinking about one specific thing. It could be your breaths, your breathing, the rhythm of your breathing. It could be a certain sound like music. It could be the sound of the MRI machine if it doesn't bother you. It can be anything, but you're drawing your attention to that one object, and any time your focus starts to wander, you pull it back. So that's called mindfulness meditation, and I'm not going to get into it too much here. I already covered on the website a lot on don'tpanicdothis.com, so if you want, you can hop over there and learn a ton about meditation. But I really recommend, if you haven't already been meditating, practice it a little bit before going in there. That way you just have one more tool at your disposal while you're getting the procedure done. Just getting the exam done, I should say. Just focus on meditating for a little while, and it's the easiest thing you could do while laying there. Anytime your thoughts start to wander, you just reel them back in. Anytime you start to think about anxiety or think about, how much longer do I have left, or what if they find something wrong? Anything that's pulling your focus into a negative thought spiral, just meditate and bring it right back. Step number 8 is going to be to focus on your breathing. Now, of course, this is a kind of redundant one. I know we've discussed it in just about any list I have about stopping panic attacks. Breathing is going to be in there, but that's because it's so huge and it's so important to do if you want to stop your panic attack. And what I mean by this is just to get your breathing under control. When we're having a panic attack, we tend to feel like we're not getting enough air, so then we hyperventilate and we're breathing too much. We're getting actually too much oxygen. Even when you feel like you're not getting enough, you're getting too much, typically during a panic attack. So what I'm going to recommend here is to just focus on your breathing, and there's so many different techniques for correct breathing. I don't want to overcomplicate it. Some people recommend 5 seconds to breathe in, hold for 5 seconds, and then 5 seconds to breathe out. Some people recommend breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. Some people recommend breathing 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out on cycle. But whichever one you decide to do, I don't think it matters that much. I think it's more about just being consistent and having some sort of regular rhythm. I like to do either 6 in, 6 out, or 5, 5, 5, or something like that, and I find that to be useful. So this is gonna vary from person to person, so experiment a little bit before going in and see what kind of breathing pattern works best for you. The biggest thing is just be consistent and don't be breathing ragged and panicking while you're in there, because it's going to exacerbate the symptoms and make them worse. Something big to keep in mind here is that even if it doesn't feel like it's working right away, it's going to take a little while for the adrenaline to wear off. If you're breathing correctly, it's going to make a difference. You just have to be patient. Don't do it for 10 seconds and then freak out that it's not working and go back to your ragged breathing. It's going to work. Just keep bringing your thoughts back to your breathing and keep getting your breathing right. Get the pattern down, the correct rhythm, and make sure you're not hyperventilating. All right, step number 9 is going to be to visualize yourself as being somewhere else. So what I mean by this is, while you're laying in that tube, yeah, you could think about the fact that you're laying in a cold metal tube with magnets spinning around you because you're not feeling well. But why would you think that? At the end of the day, you're really just laying down. That's what your body is physically doing. You're laying down. It's no different than when you're laying in your bed or laying on the sand at the beach or anything like that. So really just visualize yourself as being somewhere else. It doesn't make that much of a difference, whether you're there or you're at the beach. Yeah, the beach is nicer, but still, at the end of the day, your body doesn't know the difference. So just close your eyes and pretend you're somewhere else. Pretend you're at the beach. If you're listening to music at this point, if you have a blanket on you, things like that, then you're already feeling pretty nice. You might as well just pretend you're somewhere else. And looking at it this way, you realize, what's it matter if I'm laying here or laying on the beach or whatever? It's all the same. I'm just laying there waiting for 20 minutes to pass. And that's kind of the mindset I want you to have. So just close your eyes and just visualize yourself as being somewhere else. It's not going to be that long. Pretend you're on the beach or wherever else makes you comfortable. All right, guys, the last and final step I have for you, step number 10, is going to be to go in with a problem to work on. So what I mean by this is, so typically when we are having a panic attack, the biggest issue is our thoughts are just so wrapped up in our own anxiety and panic attacks that we can't focus on anything else. What I'm going to recommend for you is that you go in with a problem to work on. So this is going to vary from person to person. Maybe you're writing a book, or maybe you have to write a speech, or figure out a way to close a big sale, or plan a birthday party for your 4-year-old. Whatever it might be, everybody has something in their life that's going to require planning and thinking and creativity. That's the time to do it. You're literally laying there for, let's say, 20 minutes, but it could be more, it could be less. You're laying there with nothing to think about, and obviously that's going to cause you anxiety. You're restless. You don't want to be laying there. So give your brain something to work on throughout the duration of the MRI, and it's going to keep your mind busy. It's going to keep your attention focused, and just let time fly by. Just like being in the shower, how we have our best thoughts. A lot of us have our best thoughts in the shower. It's kind of the same thing. Don't just let your brain go right to the thinking about panic attacks. Let it think about whatever problem you have to work on, and make it a productive session. Make it count. So give that a shot. Give your brain something to work on while you get your MRI done. And that's all I got for you guys today. Those are my 10 best ways to prevent or stop panic attacks while inside an MRI machine. Now, if you do have an MRI exam coming up and this information still wasn't enough for you, I do recommend checking out the don'tpanicdothis.com website, where I have tons more tips on stopping panic attacks in general in all kinds of settings, not just MRI exams, and also just ways to prevent anxiety or understand anxiety in general. So like I said, check out don'tpanicdothis.com if you want to learn more about stopping panic attacks. And if you liked what you saw today, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, or sign up onto the newsletter on don'tpanicdothis.com to be notified about any of our new content that comes out. Thank you guys so much for sticking through to the end. Good luck if you have an MRI exam coming up, and I'll see you next time.